Chevrolet, the name synonymous with American muscle. But behind the glory of the Camaro, Corvette, and Chevelle lies a graveyard of engines that GM killed off in silence. Not because they were weak, but because they were too powerful, too different, and sometimes too dangerous for their own maker. From the first small blocks that built the legend of the V8 to the hidden big block monsters buried for being too good, Chevy has repeatedly destroyed its own masterpieces. Today we'll uncover the shocking truth behind 10 of the most iconic Chevrolet engines ever killed, machines that defined the golden age of American performance, then vanished without a trace. Number 10. Chevrolet 265 Small Block V8. In 1955, Chevrolet launched what few realized would change American automotive history: the 265 cubic-inch Small Block V8. Compact, lightweight, and more powerful than any rival V8 of its time, it forced even Ford to redesign its entire engine lineup. With clever crossflow heads, an excellent power-to-weight ratio, and silky acceleration, the 265 became the symbol of performance within reach. Yet, after only 2 short years, Chevrolet killed it. Why? Not because it failed, but because the marketing department wanted bigger numbers. The 283 cubic inch sounded stronger, and GM believed customers bought cars with their ears, not their right foot. What few people know is that the legendary 283 and 327 were merely evolved versions of the 265. This unsung engine laid the foundation for every small block Chevy that followed. When the 265 was discontinued, many thought it was the end. In truth, it was the beginning of an empire, one that defined American engineering for generations. Number 9. Chevrolet Turbo Air 6. In the early 1960s, Chevrolet shocked America with the Turbo Air 6, a flat, air-cooled 6-cylinder engine that looked more German than American. Mounted in the rear of the Corvair, this 145 cubic inch marvel offered a completely different experience: low center of gravity, balanced handling, and a deep mechanical growl unlike any other Chevy. It wasn't just a bold experiment. It was a glimpse of European engineering in an American badge. Engineers from Germany and Britain even praised it as one of the most advanced air-cooled designs of its era, with exceptional thermal balance and durability. The Monza Spider's turbocharged version pushed performance further without adding displacement, a true technical leap ahead of its time. Ironically, that innovation became its curse. After Ralph Nader's Unsafe at Any Speed branded the Corvair unsafe, GM killed the entire line, taking the Turbo Air 6 with it. Number 8. Chevrolet 409 W Series Big Block. When it comes to engines that defined the roar of the 1960s, the Chevrolet 409 W Series Big Block stands tall. Introduced in 1961, this 409 cubic inch V8 was built purely for speed and power. It powered legendary cars like the Impala SS and Bel Air, and became an instant American icon after being immortalized in the Beach Boys' hit song, "She's Real Fine, My 409." The secret behind the 409 lay in its unique W-shaped cylinder heads, featuring a slanted combustion chamber that increased compression and airflow efficiency. In its most powerful form, the engine delivered a staggering 425 horsepower, making it one of the most dominant street and drag motors of its era. Yet by 1965, Chevrolet abruptly discontinued it, replacing it with the 396 Mark IV Big Block. Officially, GM claimed it was part of a modernization effort, But inside the company, everyone knew it was about cost reduction and mass production efficiency. The cruel irony, the 396's design was heavily based on the 409's engineering foundation. Number 7. Chevrolet 302 DZ/28 V8. In 1967, at the peak of the Trans Am racing era, Chevrolet unleashed its secret weapon, the 302 DZ/28 V8, an engine built not for the masses, but purely for victory. Measuring exactly 302 cubic inches, it was engineered specifically to comply with the 5.0-liter displacement rule. This masterpiece combined the 327's block with a 283 crankshaft, creating a high-revving monster that could spin beyond 7,000 RPM, almost unheard of for an American V8 of the 1960s. The 302's raw metallic roar gave the Camaro Z/28 a fierce identity and made it a nightmare for the Ford Mustang boss 302 on the track. Chevy downplayed its power, rating it at just 290 horsepower, while the real output easily exceeded 360 horsepower, a clever trick to dodge insurance penalties. Drivers described it as an engine with a soul, reacting to every throttle input with electric precision. But its reign was short-lived. When new emissions laws and low-end torque trends took over in 1970, the 302 DZ was abruptly killed. Number 6. Chevrolet 396 L78 Big Block. When you think of the golden age of American muscle, few engines stand taller than the Chevrolet 396 L78 Big Block, the powerhouse that turned the Chevelle, Camaro, and Nova into street legends. Introduced in 1965 as the first of the Mark IV series, it replaced the iconic 409. With 396 cubic inches of displacement, a high compression ratio, and redesigned semi-hemispherical heads, the L78 cranked out a thunderous 425 horsepower, intimidating even Ford and Mopar loyalists. Interestingly, Chevrolet never intended the 396 to be mainstream. It was built for purists, the true performance enthusiasts. At high RPM, its roar wasn't just noise, it was thunder rolling through the asphalt. On the drag strip, one press of the pedal could set the rear tires ablaze. Yet in 1970, GM quietly renamed it 402 cubic inches, purely for marketing reasons. In reality, the 396 and 402 were virtually identical, separated only by a minor bore increase, but bigger numbers sold better. Number 5. Chevrolet 427 L88 Big Block. If there was ever an engine built only for the fearless, it was the Chevrolet 427 L88 Big Block. Introduced in 1967, the L88 wasn't for ordinary buyers. It was for racers and thrill seekers, willing to tame a machine that defied its own limits. On paper, Chevrolet claimed it produced only 430 horsepower, but real-world figures exceeded 550 horsepower. With a 12.5:1 compression ratio, aluminum heads, a wild racing camshaft, and fuel that required ultra-high octane gas, the L88 was essentially a race engine disguised as a street motor. Corvette and Camaro L88s could top 170 miles per hour, staggering for the late 1960s. Yet that immense power became its curse. GM purposely hid the L88 from the public. No ads, no dealer promotions, and even warnings to customers not to buy it for daily use. Within the racing community, the L88 became legend, an outlaw masterpiece that even Chevrolet feared. By 1969, with emissions laws tightening, GM quietly killed the L88, replacing it with weaker LS5 and LS6 engines. Number 4. Chevrolet 454 LS6. When you talk about the absolute peak of the muscle car era, nothing defines it better than the Chevrolet 454 LS6, a beast that lived for only 2 years, yet became immortal. Introduced in 1970, the LS6 was the mightiest of Chevy's big block family, featuring an 11.25-to-1 compression ratio, a huge Holley 4-barrel carburetor, and high-performance cylinder heads. On paper, it made 450 horsepower, but dyno runs often showed figures well over 500 horsepower. In the Chevelle SS 454 LS6, this engine turned a family coupe into a thunderstorm on wheels. A light touch on the throttle sent the rear tires smoking, and the car passed 100 miles per hour in seconds. The LS6 wasn't just an engine. It was a statement that Chevy could outmuscle Ford and Mopar anytime. But that brilliance didn't last long. By 1971, the fuel crisis and strict emission laws forced GM to drop compression and end production. What most people never realized is that many fully assembled LS6 units were destroyed inside GM's own plants, deemed too wild to meet new EPA standards. Number 3. Chevrolet 230 turbocharged inline 6. In the mid-1960s, when most Americans saw turbocharging as exotic technology reserved for race cars or aircraft, Chevrolet made a daring move. It bolted a turbocharger onto its inline 6-cylinder engine. The result was the Chevrolet 230 turbocharged inline 6, powering the Corvair Monza Spider, and it became one of the first turbo engines in American automotive history. This 230 cubic inch engine combined a compact design, low compression ratio, and a small Borg-Warner turbocharger, boosting output from a modest 120 horsepower to nearly 150 horsepower, an impressive figure for the era. Its refined intake system provided smooth acceleration, while the signature turbo whistle gave drivers the thrill of piloting a miniature race car from the 1960s. What few realize is that Chevrolet's innovation predated the Porsche 911 Turbo by nearly a decade, yet that forward-thinking design arrived too early for its time. American buyers still equated performance with displacement, not boost pressure, and the 230 Turbo's lag and maintenance costs made it a tough sell. By 1966, Chevrolet quietly ended production. Few noticed that the 230 turbocharged inline 6 had paved the way for GM's later turbocharged engines. Number 2. Chevrolet 305 TPI V8. By the early 1980s, the age of American big blocks was long gone. In its place, Chevrolet introduced the 305 TPI V8, short for Tuned Port Injection, a sophisticated electronic fuel injection system inspired by race technology. Though displacing only 305 cubic inches, it marked the biggest technological leap Chevy had made since the carburetor era. First appearing in the Camaro IRO CZ and Corvette C4, the 305 TPI featured long-runner intake tubes and advanced sensors that optimized low-end torque. The result was a 5.0-liter engine that felt stronger, revved cleaner, and delivered impressive fuel efficiency, something its rivals couldn't match. Technically, it proved that true performance wasn't about displacement, but precision. Few realized that the 305 TPI was effectively GM's prototype for future EFI systems. Ironically, that brilliance became its downfall. The complexity and high cost of maintenance scared off mechanics and buyers alike. By the early 1990s, the simpler LT1 replaced it, and Chevrolet quietly ended production. What most enthusiasts never heard is that GM purged all of its internal TPI testing data to ensure full focus on the new generation. Number 1. Chevrolet 350 LT5 DOHC. In the early 1990s, Chevrolet stunned the world with the 350 LT5 DOHC, the company's first ever dual overhead cam, 32-valve V8, engineered by Lotus Engineering in the UK. This wasn't just an engine, it was a statement that American innovation could rival Europe's best. Built at the Mercruiser plant, typically reserved for high-performance marine engines, the LT5 powered the Corvette ZR1 exclusively. Displacing 350 cubic inches, 5.7 liters, it produced 375 horsepower at launch and later 405 horsepower by 1993, propelling the ZR1 to over 175 miles per hour, faster than a Ferrari Testarossa. With an all-aluminum design, dual intake system, and silky high-revving character, the LT5 was a marvel of precision engineering. But what most people never realized was that GM didn't want it to succeed too much. Its production costs were nearly double those of a conventional small block, making every ZR1 barely profitable. By 1995, as GM streamlined operations, the LT5 was discontinued and replaced by the cheaper LS series. Lotus engineers later described the LT5 as a masterpiece abandoned, a machine decades ahead of its time, yet killed by corporate economics. Chevrolet's history is full of irony. Its greatest engines were often silenced at their peak, not because they failed, but because they were too powerful, too advanced, and sometimes too dangerous for GM's own plans. Though gone, their spirit still echoes in the hearts of car lovers everywhere. Now it's your turn. Which one do you want to see reborn? The roaring 409, the screaming 302, or the futuristic LT5? Leave your thoughts below, hit like, subscribe, and share this video to spread the passion for American engineering. Every click, every comment, every share is like turning the key, bringing these legends back to life, one engine at a time.